Lexi. I like that.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Lexi. I'm back. So today I'm gonna be doing a get ready with me, and I'm going to tell you guys one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. It's really strange, so I just have to tell you. So let's just get right into it. I did tell this story maybe a year ago in like a TikTok, but I wasn't able to give like full detail, so I was like, scrap it, delete it, and I'm gonna give you guys a long version of that story. So I'm just gonna get started with the makeup real quick. So while I do my foundation real quick, if you guys don't know, I am 4 years clean. So I used to do H, uppers, pills, everything. And in this story, I'm gonna be talking about a guy named Matt. That's his real name because I don't give a fuck this dude. I met him in rehab. He was very toxic, I was very toxic, and we literally met, we got together, and all of a sudden we were in love, like immediately. So we immediately move in together. We start living at his dad's house, and a lot of abuse was happening at this house. And this was emotional, physical, mental, and sexual abuse. A lot of paranormal stuff was happening too, which I am going to bring up. But he was the kind of guy that would do mostly uppers, and he was also the kind of guy that could not control his drugs. He was always in psychosis. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat. So this entire cycle of him doing all of that lasted for about a year, and then literally out of nowhere something changed. He was different, his body was different, even his eyes were different. Like something completely shifted in him. So the first incident that happened that seemed kind of off was me waking up to him outside, and he was literally underneath the house. So I went down there, I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, shh, my dad is filming us. There's a camera in here that he installed. He wiretapped us. So he's filming us and he's listening to us. This is something that there was no proof of, but that he was like 100% like he knew that he had wiretapped and installed a camera to watch us. He confronted his dad several times, like, hey, I know what you're doing. I know you're watching us. And his dad would be like, what are you talking about? His dad was not the type of guy to do this. Like, he had never dabbled in drugs. He was still working every day. He was sane. He was nothing like Matt. Nothing like him. So after a couple weeks of this back and forth about how he's filming us, finally was like, we gotta move. I don't want to live here anymore. Keep in mind, was still very heavily under the influence. I was still using. So everything he was telling me, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? At this point, there's no reason why I would think he would lie to me, especially about something like that. So this one day, he literally woke me up and he's like, pack your shit, we're leaving. I'm like, okay, like where are we going? He's like, just don't ask questions. We're leaving. I got up, I started packing, put everything in the car, and we left. We are driving. At first, I'm like not saying anything, and I'm like, where are we going? Like, what are we doing? What's the plan? Like, you need to let me know what's going on. And he's like, we're going to my mom's house, and we're gonna stay with her for a little bit. She lived at least 2-3 hours away from where we were staying in at the time. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not moving all the way out there. He's like, it's the only place we can go. We're not going to be there very long, but we have to get out of there. And I'm just like, all right, fine. He does say that he had already spoken with her and that she was okay with everything. We drive all the way out there. We get out. We go to the front door, and she comes down. She's like, what's going on? What do you mean what's going on? Like, we're here, we're moving in. And she's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, I can't have you guys move in. I have no room for you. I don't have room for you guys here. We leave. And as we're driving, I'm asking, I'm like, dude, what's going on? Like, you said you had already had everything planned. You need to talk to me. He's like, I did talk to her. I did tell her, and she said yes. And I'm like, well, did you call her? Did you text her? Like, let me see the text. And he's like, well, no. Like, I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I'm like, okay, how did you get in touch with her? Fucking dude really says, well, I talked to her telepathically, And she said yes. She said yes when I asked telepathically. Are you fucking serious? What? So of course we get in a huge fight. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? After all of that, we end up kind of like making up. We end up going back to the dad's house. So a couple of days go by and things seem normal. And out of nowhere, he started doing this thing. Anytime that I would hang out with my mom, with my family, and my sister, he would start calling me like crazy, blowing me up, and start telling me that I need to come home right away. I need to come home now. Something bad's gonna happen. This one time, I come home, I open the door, and he's literally laying in the bed, and he's crying. I'm like, what is going on? He's like, I just felt like something bad was gonna happen. I know that you were telling me telepathically that you needed help. But that's all he would say. Like, I just felt like you were contacting me and telling me you needed help. In my mind, I was like, well, he's high. Maybe he means like he had a gut feeling like something bad was gonna happen. So I don't question it really. But I did stop hanging out with my mom and my family as much. Weeks go by and randomly he wakes up one morning. He's like, I got us a place, the same building that your mom is living at. So now you're gonna be able to hang out with your mom whenever, or she can just come over so you guys can be together and you're not that far away. I was so excited. I was like, what? Keep in mind, neither of us had a job. Neither of us were working, and this place was very pricey. Did I think about that though? No, absolutely not. I pack up my stuff, we get everything in the car, and then we start driving over there. So we get there, we park, we're walking over there. I'm like, wait, are you like for real? He's like, I'm for real, yes. We get to 410. I'm like, okay, like, do you have the keys? He's like, no, just walk on in. And I'm like, okay. So he goes to open the doorknob, and the door's locked. So I look at him, I'm like, well, do you have the keys? And as we're like facing each other and talking, the door opens. This lady, she's standing there, she's kind of looking at us like, can I help you? I'm just taken aback. I'm like, and I look at him like, he's not saying anything, and I'm looking at her, she looks pissed. So I just come up with a lie. I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm so sorry. Like, he told me this was his sister's house. I guess we got the wrong building. I'm so sorry. And she looks at me, she's like, well, why did you try to open the door then? I'm kind of looking at him like, are you gonna say? So I'm like, I'm sorry, we're just mistaken. We're looking for another apartment. We start walking away and she's like, yeah, good. You guys need to get out of here because if not, I'm gonna call the cops. I'm looking at him pissed. Like, did you really just like come up with this whole fucking thing? And as I'm looking at him, he's like this. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, whatever. I don't say anything. We go in the car. I fucking slam the door and I'm just sitting in there quiet. He finally turns to me and he starts telling me everything. He's like, I don't want you to get mad. I don't want you to get scared or upset. So he's like, look, I have 3 people in my head and they tell me what to do all day. And they're all here for different reasons. And I forgot the names, so I'm just gonna give them fake names. There's an older woman, I call her Kathy. And she's the one that just kind of like analyzes and makes sure that everything's going well. There is a middle-aged man. His name is Eric, and he is the one that tells me everything. He's the leader, and he tells me like what to do and what not to do. He makes me feel like if I don't do these things, that something bad's gonna happen. Another girl, her name is Lily. She protects me, but she also tells me things to do to protect you. So the guy doesn't like me, he doesn't like women. The woman, she's like whatever about me. And Lily, the younger one, the protector, she is trying to protect me as well. He starts giving me examples of like all the times that they told him to do stuff and something good came out of it. For example, he was like, do you remember that one time that we were waiting for, I ended up leaving before he got there. I left because the people told me that they were going to rob us. That's how I was able to get us out of that situation. And then later on, we did find out that they were trying to rob us. He gives me like 2 more examples of, oh my God, that was my dog. So he gives me like 2 more examples of these things that happened where he did something because they told him to, and it ended up saving us. I'm like, okay, but what about like the house situation, like the apartment situation, or like with your mom? He's like, well, you know, it's like us, like we don't always make good choices. I'm just sitting there like speechless, like just trying to take all of this in. I'm like, okay, this is 100% psychosis or mental illness. It sounds like DID. At this time, he wasn't in this psychosis situation. He was sober. After like a day or two, I finally was like, okay, so like I don't want to talk about these 3 people. I don't want to hear it. At this point, like I didn't really believe him. I was just kind of like, you know, not trying to be a complete bitch, because I really thought that he was like suffering with like maybe schizophrenia or DID. I didn't know how to handle it. He was just like, fine, I won't talk about it anymore. So things were literally normal for like a day or two. That was it. He started his psychosis episode. Weird shit starts happening. Up at this point, I had never had sleep paralysis before. In this house, out of nowhere, I was getting really bad sleep paralysis. It would happen almost every night. It felt like even before I went to sleep, I felt like it was gonna happen. Like, oh man, it's gonna happen tonight. I know I'm gonna get sleep paralysis. And there's nothing that I could do. Anyway, in these sleep paralysis things, I would see this figure, and it was always the same figure, and it was a girl. Like it would come in through the door, and it would slowly come up to us, and it would get in between us, and it would be there for a second, and then it would just sink into the bed. And the entire time I had that fear and that dread, like this thing was coming after me and it was going to kill me. All while this is happening, I started getting really sick. I was throwing up so much. I was so skinny. I had lost so much weight. Couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't even drink orange juice, any water, because I would just throw it back up. I started getting really bad anxiety when I had never had anxiety before. I would shake and I would shiver. My fingers would go numb. We started seeing a lot of shadow people, a lot of shadow figures. Times where I would be sitting in the bed by myself, I would see a shadow person like peeking in. I would see things running back and forth. Things started falling off of the nightstands, off of the bed, thrown off the counters, off the bathtub. One morning, he had gone up. He had a little job to do. Kind of woke up a little bit. I turn around, I go back to sleep. So after a few minutes of me laying there, I hear the door open and I hear him come back in and crawl into bed with me. Just really slowly. I feel his energy. I feel the covers being lifted and being thrown over him, and he's just sitting there behind me, just breathing loud. I'm sitting there like, we about to get freaky? Like, what is going on? Why is he breathing so loud? So I don't say anything. I'm just waiting for something to happen. Finally, I turn around. He's not there. The door is still wide open. The covers have been moved. I still feel like somebody's right there next to me, and there's nothing there. I'm terrified. The adrenaline just hit me all at once. I jumped up so quick. I grabbed my phone and I ran out of the house. I'm crying. I'm calling him like, you need to come pick me up now. I don't know what the fuck just jumped into the bed with me. He comes, he picks me up. After that incident, something else started happening where I would literally be dead asleep and I would be woken up by the bed being shaken. And it wasn't like somebody was like shaking it. It was the sensation of somebody running on top of the bed in circles like this, like running on top of the bed. And it felt like if I would move, like this thing was gonna step on me. That's what it felt like. The bed was just moving. For the first time, like, what do? I literally don't even remember how, but I was out of the house in 0.2 seconds. Finally gave in, and I start telling him about everything. I'm like, babe, there's something in this house. Like, it's tormenting me and I don't know what to do. All while I'm telling him this, he's calm as shit, like just sitting there like, I'm like, do you not hear what I'm saying? He's like, no, I heard you. Like, I believe you. You didn't want to hear about it, but all that stuff that's happening, it's the people in my head. Lily she's the one that's crawling into bed with us. Kathy, who is watching us, she's the shadow people. Eric, he's the one that's running on the bed, and he's the one that's making you sick. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, like, you told me not to say anything, so I haven't. Another thing that he was doing, he would twitch and like talk and moan, and he would be like twitching like this, like very sharp, fast movements that were just so creepy. His eyes would twitch. Sometimes one of his eyes would be open and the other one would be like twitching. And I would talk to him and be like, hello, like, are you okay? He would stop for a second, and then he would like start twitching like slowly again, and then he'd be like full on like twitching again. And then this one night, he's doing the same twitching that he usually does. His arms go up like this. And then he starts moving his hands, and it almost looks like he's holding somebody. So he's moving him down, and I'm just staring at him like, what is this fucking dude doing? Like, what are you doing? And out of nowhere, he starts moaning. It starts getting louder and louder. He makes that noise. I'm sitting there like, are you for real right now? So a couple days later, that same exact thing happens again. And then some nights when I was having sleep paralysis, I would see this girl coming in, getting in between us, getting on top of him. Something weird is going on. Like, I just felt it in my gut. I felt it. So I go to him, I'm like, hey, look, I need to talk to you. He's like, okay, I need to talk to you too. I tell him, go first, tell me what you need to tell me. He's like, okay, so the other morning, he was there by himself and he was just chilling, watching TV. He starts hearing Lily, the protector, and she starts telling him in his head, like, don't be scared, don't be scared. Out of nowhere, he feels like his pants are starting to shift and they're moving down. He starts freaking out and like trying to pull him up, and he keeps hearing this voice like, don't be scared, don't be afraid, everything's okay. He tells me that he lets his pants come off. He says that his dick is out, and he starts seeing it and feels it, that it's moving, and that he still hears Lily in his head, don't be scared, calm down, don't be afraid. He feels like he starts getting a blowjob, and he can see it moving up and down. I was like, what? It was moving up and down to the point where I came. Like, I'm dead serious. He is dead sober at this time, and he looks scared. He's telling me all this, and he's like, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, like, this happened a couple more times. Now she's starting to tell me these things about you. She's telling me she doesn't like you anymore, she doesn't want to protect you, that you're bad for me, pretty much trying to get you out of here.
Excuse me?
I am freaked out. So the first thing I do, I call my sister. We start researching it together. Like, I'm telling her everything, like about the paranormal stuff, about how we see shadow people now, sleep paralysis, and what I'm seeing. She's like, you know what? This sounds like a succubus. So let me read what this says. It says, a succubus is understood as a Lilin demon in female form, or a supernatural entity that appears in dreams to seduce men, usually through sexual activity. Repeated sexual activity with a succubus can cause poor physical health or mental health, even death. We're like, whoa, dude, what the fuck? I literally don't know what to do. I'm trying to get my shit together. I'm trying to stop doing. I end up talking to a friend. We'll call her Cindy. This is a friend that I've known forever. She was like an older sister to me. I start talking to her about the situation, but I try to be really vague. He tells me he has 3 people in his head. They're telling him what to do. She's like, what are these people's names? I'm like, why? She's like, yeah, the names. Like, is it this and this and this? And she gives me the actual names. What? How do you know that? Like, did you talk to him? She's like, no, I have a friend, he lives in the valley now, and he says the exact same thing. He has the same 3 people, like protector, leader, analyzer, same fucking thing. So I'm like, dude, we have to talk. We all get together, me, Cindy, and this guy, and same exact thing as what Matt's telling me. He's like, yeah, you know, I have these 3 people, they tell me what to do, and he's telling me like, it's real, like it's all real. Like, okay, you have to talk to this guy, meaning Matt. We all get together, they're talking, and me and Cindy, we're just watching them. We're just sitting there like, what the fuck? They're both talking like this is all real. Like, yeah, no, these people are in my head. They watch out for me, give me tips, they tell me like what to do to get money. And it's just mind-blowing. Not long after this, me and him, we ended up breaking up. Things got way more toxic. Anytime I would go somewhere, whether it be my dad's house, my mom's house, my sister's house, my friend's house, he would always be waiting for me outside. Even if he didn't have a phone, even if he didn't have my number, if I had a new phone, he somehow always found out where I was. I'd walk outside and he'd be there, like just sitting there waiting for me. And I'd be like, how the fuck did you know I was here? Like, are you following me? It's been years since I've talked to him. I'm married, I'm with somebody else, and I still don't understand what that was. I don't. Like, was it a prank? But I know that Cindy would never do something like that with me. I still talk to her to this day, and she doesn't understand. It just never made any fucking sense to me. I'm glad that I was finally able to put this video out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, subscribe or stick around, watch my other videos, and until then, I'll see you later. Bye. And you don't seem to